Let's talk about child's pose. So I'm going to break this down into three short little uh, parts, spiels, whatever you want to call them. Classic child's pose. Like if you're looking at like the original pose, say in a yoga book, or some classes are offering are offered ask this of you, is knees together and you lower your torso down, your hips, your booty is they're on your heels. They're on your heels. Hips to boot and booty's on the heel. And you're gonna lower the head down like so. Everyone's gonna look a little bit different in this. Like some people will have less rounding in their back. Arms alongside the body with the palms facing up or arms overhead. So hopefully you can see that. I know this isn't the best camera angle, but I'm sure you will get something out of this. So that's classic. But when we're dealing with belly, so if we have a belly that's getting in the way, whether it's pregnant or not, when we're dealing with breasts or boobs that are larger, this doesn't always work and it doesn't feel good, right? So, heck, even with like a smaller belly and small breasts, it doesn't always feel good. So, I would encourage you to bring your knees as wide as the mat. Bring your knees as wide as the mat. And as long as you're not experiencing like crazy pubic bone pain, so that legs splayed together doesn't work for you, then we've created the space to come forward for belly and for breasts. So when we start to lower down here, my booty is still touching my heels or very, very close to my heels. And I start to make my way down and I rest my head. You'll see there's likely less rounding in my back. You can still have arms alongside the body here or arms out overhead, which feels so good. All right? Or if you have a bolster, if you have bed pillows, if you have like a 90s body pillow, do people even have these anymore? I don't know. You can fold it, you can stack them, whatever you need to do. This is also lovely to have in front of you if you're just simply enjoying a child's pose, so that you can, one, either rest your torso, turn your head if you like, and arms gently bent hang out here, or you can slide it a little more forward so that your forehead rests on that support. You can have arms out overhead or alongside the body, but it's creating a bit more space, but it's also keeping the head a little bit more upright, keeping the torso a little bit more upright or even like on a level plane. And this is nice if you're dealing with nausea, heartburn, indigestion. And so like coming down all the way is tipping everything forward and just feels horrible and gross. Then you can add this to keep things a little more level and you're still eking into the hips and maybe offering that nice stretch for the shoulders depending on how you're holding yourself. So this is an option. This is also lovely and restorative. Even again, like for any type of body, this could be so lovely. And it's awesome to hang out like that in child's pose. 2. Okay, so that was the first. So if you're just gonna come into child's pose, if you're gonna try to enjoy child's pose, you like it, you wanna hang out there, those are some options or variations. If you are integrating a child's pose into a flow, so say you're doing a sun salutation. Say you're doing a sun salutation and back bends don't work for you, like coming down here, this, you're not gonna do this. You want to come into a child's pose instead. While everyone else is hanging out here, you hang out in the child's pose and then tuck your toes and join everybody in downward dog, right? So in a sun salutation. So say you drop down from your version of plank, knees drop down in your sun salutation, and you want to sink back into that child's pose. An option is right away when you drop down into your version of plank pose, start to bring your knees as wide as the mat, and then sink on back and commit to your child's pose while everyone else is breathing in their back bend. But if this, like sinking all the way back, just isn't comfy for you anymore or doesn't work in your sun salutation, you can bring your knees wider apart, but keep your toes tucked and sink back, but don't fully commit. So you don't have to go all the way back and like snuggle in and get in there, especially if it's just not even feeling good. But perhaps your version is bringing knees wider apart, keep the toes tucked, sink the hips back. I know you can't see me. They're not touching, my hips aren't touching my heels when I do this. So I'm not fully committing. Hips sink back. Maybe I bow forward if that feels good. Or maybe I even keep the gaze lifted with my hips sinking back with the toes tucked. Added bonus of having a delicious toe stretch here if your toes are still tucked and stretching the bottoms of the feet. And then you're not shoving everything down into the earth. So you still get that sink into the hips. You still get that stretch for the shoulders and the arms. You're just not fully committing, but you get all the lovely benefits. Does that make sense? Okay. And then finally, 3, if none of that is working for you, or if you just want to play with something different, find a wall. Maybe it's definitely a wall, not these crappy, flimsy closet doors, but for demonstration's sake. You're going to find a wall, and if what you're craving from the child's pose is that like stretch and sink into the arms, but it doesn't feel good to do that on the earth, you can face your wall and you're going to come into, I call it a froggy squat. So my heels are lifted. This is probably the most unflattering angle ever, but you'll get the picture here. Okay, so my heels are lifted. I come into this froggy squat and I slide my hands up the wall until I can start to like sink my heart toward the wall a little bit here, kind of like hammock into my armpits a bit, and really find that delicious stretch into the shoulders, the arms, parts of my back, even parts of my torso. You can even rest your head on the wall too if that feels good, or simply keep your head away if it's too much. You can also hang out here if you just want to like eke into the hips and forget about the arms. You can also slide hands down more like head height or shoulder height and just still continue to like eke into the hips. Okay? So I don't know if any of that was helpful, but it's a bit of exploration, maybe some things to try with. Always know that there are options when you're working with. It's not just like come into child's pose and then you see what everyone else is doing and then you, oh, okay, and I'll just get into that. Fine, but what's the whole point of it, right? Like, why are you in this child's pose? Is it to hang out there and enjoy it? Then let's figure out how to do that and make it work, right, for us. Is the goal to include child's pose as part of your sun salutation? Okay, how is that going to work for you if fully committing and sinking down into it doesn't feel good? What do you need to make it look like? And then if it's, I love child's pose, I love sinking into the hips, and I love my arms overhead, but coming down and forward just feels disgusting, then coming to the wall and finding that exact same position just against a wall. So you get creative about it and you're still meeting the goal or what you want to get out of the pose. Okay? That's that. I love you. Bye-bye.